Welcome back to Out of the Rough. I'm with Scott Jetty. Scott Jetty is the CEO of Credo Consulting, a consultant to businesses. Scott, I want to talk to you about your book that you've written, the author of Core Wisdom, as a veteran in the Marine Corps, and once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yes.
Want to talk to you about a couple more chapters in the book, and one of them happens to be weaponless leadership. Weaponless leader. What is weaponless leadership?
Yeah, that was a concept I was introduced to early in the Corps, and I noticed as a young Marine, there's a lot of emphasis put on our ability to shoot. Marines are big about shooting and being good with our weapons. And I started to notice that my leader, my lieutenant, never carried a weapon in training. They carry them in combat. That would be stupid. But they don't carry them in training.
Right.
And I asked him one day, why don't you carry a weapon? Why aren't you setting the example? Isn't that what you're supposed to do? He said, my platoon is my weapon. So you have one weapon, the one you're carrying. I have 30. And I have a variety of weapons and a variety of ways to handle things, because my training isn't about learning to do one thing. My training is learning to coordinate many things. It makes me much more effective. And I realized as I started working with businesses that a lot of business owners didn't really understand that. And they were trying to do everything themselves, or control or hold on to everything themselves. And what they needed to do was to put down some tasks and allow other people to pick them up. And that would multiply their effectiveness. And they can be 30 times more effective or 100 times more effective than if they were always holding the weapon and always doing the job themselves.
You know, Scott, that's so prevalent as entrepreneurs. We're one of the, we're a great salesman, or we're a great baker, or we're a great tactician, we're great at something.
Right.
We go to start our own company, and we're really still good at that one thing, but we're not really good at accounting, we're not really good at sales or marketing, or whatever it is that your core competency isn't there.
Yeah.
And that becomes a challenge, and that is weaponless leadership.
Absolutely. If you try to do all that, rather than farming it out to someone that knows it well, you're not actually controlling anything. You're actually slowly losing control,
right,
and you haven't noticed it yet.
And some of the small things you can do is hire an intern if your business isn't ready. Hire someone part-time and train them how to do that as a leader.
Exactly.
Do that task.
Exactly.
Maybe get an independent contract, a small contract for that particular task.
And you might have to learn new skills because now you have to manage them, and maybe that's something you haven't done before.
Yeah, and get better and grow. Absolutely. Let's talk about fixed points. Fixed points.
Fixed points. As it DPing. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a reality when you're trying to engage a target that's moving towards you. And in sniper school, we'd have snipers moving towards the observer, and the observer would try to locate the sniper and eliminate him. And often, when you're trying to locate a target, your depth perception, or your DPing, goes off.
Okay, so DPing is depth perception.
Depth perception. And so you'll overshoot the target, or you'll undershoot the target. Or in life, you'll overreact or underreact to a problem. So the fact that you've seen the problem and identified it, and you can see it's coming towards you, might not be enough if, in fact, you can't judge how to react to it. So the way you handle it in the military environment is you get fixed points, as we were talking about a minute ago, the fixed points. It could be a rock or a tree, and prior to going in, you establish those fixed points, and you know how far away they are. And you compare them to the target you've now found so you can get an accurate read on where it is. Well, in life, your fixed points are your values or your characters, the things that you're not going to stray from. That's what's going to guide you. So when you get into the problem and you start to overreact or underreact, you can go back to your values or your characters, your set rules, the things you said you wouldn't violate, and say, you know what, I think in this situation I've lost my perspective. And these will help bring you back into perspective.
Yeah, if values are critical, and if you define those values up front.
You've got to define them up front.
Yeah, then decisions are easy, aren't they?
Sure, because if you define them in the midst of the battle, they're as unreliable as the target you're going at. They have to be defined when things are calm, and you're thinking it out and saying, this is what's important to me.
You know, there's something that happened just recently in Benghazi, where it was a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
I think he was a retired Navy SEAL, if my facts are correct. In fact, the facts are just coming out.
Yeah.
But he was told not to engage the enemy.
Sure.
But his values were that Americans were going to die, the ambassador was going to get killed or captured, and I'm going to go defend our property. So he overrode the decision to not engage because his principles were, I'm going to defend that helpless individual.
Yeah, it's a great example because obviously this guy, Navy SEAL, I think he was working for the CIA at the time. Obviously he's got a high value of loyalty to his leadership and of following orders. And yet he found in that moment he had to choose between following orders and saving people's lives. And he looked at his values and said, these are both values of mine, but saving people's lives is a higher value. Right. And so he knew which decision to make because he had fixed points.
Yep, he had fixed points, and his depth perception was a little off, but he relied on his values.
And it put him back in perspective.
Yeah.
Made the right decision.
Let's talk about my beloved Corps and ownership.
Yeah, ownership. I was a little shocked when I joined the Marine Corps to find all the leadership, the drill instructors, the NCOs, claiming ownership of everything. It didn't matter what you touched. You know, then they refer to the Corps as their beloved Corps. This is my beloved Corps. I'm thinking, I think the taxpayers pay for this. I don't think you own this.
Right.
And this is my beloved Earth, and don't lean against my tree unless you're helping to hold it up, because that's my tree. Everything was theirs. And I thought that was a little arrogant at the time. But as I grew in rank, I started to realize that if you don't take ownership of something, you can't really accomplish anything with it. And I began to take ownership of everything. And then I moved from that military environment of taking ownership of everything into a business environment where I found a lot of people taking ownership of nothing, especially bad ideas or failed concepts. Nobody wanted to step up and say, that was my fault. Why don't we learn from that? Everyone was trying to defer blame. And really, if you want to control something or succeed at something, you got to take ownership. You got to own it. We talked before about tenants in apartments. If you rent a home, then when something goes wrong, you tend to go to a landlord and ask him to fix it for you. If you own a home, you tend to take responsibility for the things that go wrong and fix them yourself. You may call an expert, but still it's you doing it. So it's going through life with the attitude of owning your life as opposed to renting your life, and taking responsibility for what happens as opposed to blaming everyone else and expecting them to fix all your problems for you.
And as a leader, we need to teach our employees to own their decisions. Own decisions in the company. Own decisions that subordinates or those that are working with you make.
If you want the most out of them, get them to take ownership of their position and give them the freedom to do it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your service to our country. Thanks for all you do. I was really excited that you were coming in to talk about the book, Core Wisdom, from Scott Jetty, A Field Manual for Life. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Fred.
Absolutely. We're going to jump to a quick break, and we'll be right back.